Welcome to another episode, everyone. Pam Bondi is getting slammed hard by Representative Raskin. She, of course, is involved in a steep cover-up of the Epstein files and Donald Trump, and he calls it all out and exposes her plainly. She, of course, was subpoenaed by Democrats and Republicans to testify on Capitol Hill regarding the Epstein cover-up. She's there to testify, and he is letting her have it immediately. Check this out. Listen, watch the cover-up.
Bondi, you've got the best lawyer's job in America because your mission is justice and your clients are the American people. But to promote justice for the people, you've got to listen to the victims, like the women seated behind you today. Those are just some of the hundreds of survivors of Jeffrey Epstein's global sex trafficking ring who are demanding that the truth be told and are demanding accountability for the abusers who trafficked and raped them. You still haven't met with these survivors. So with their permission, let me introduce to you the survivors and late survivors' family members who are present today. There's Teresa Helm, there's Jess Michaels, Laura Bloom McGee, Danny Bensky, Liz Stein, Marina Lacerda, Sky and Amanda Roberts, who are the family of the late Virginia Giuffre, Charlene Richard, and Lisa Phillips. Now, you're not showing a lot of interest in the victims, Madam Attorney General, whether it's Epstein's human trafficking ring or the homicidal governmental violence against citizens in Minneapolis. As Attorney General, you're siding with the perpetrators and you're ignoring the victims. That will be your legacy unless you act quickly to change course. You're running a massive Epstein cover-up right out of the Department of Justice. You've been ordered by
running a massive Epstein cover-up right out of the Department of Justice. This is the Attorney General Pam Bondi being verbally chastised for her lack of action as it relates to the Epstein victims. They're there sitting right behind her there at Capitol Hill, and they have been beseeching her to interview them and to take action as it relates to their abuse. They are the victims. She has not even met with these individuals. In fact, she has redacted the victims inside of the Epstein files, not to protect them, but to protect the abusers. We know that the DOJ released the Epstein files earlier this year and yet did not release the charges or the accusations as it relates to Donald Trump. Only when they were called out on it did all of a sudden the paperwork become released. And still, nearly only half of the Epstein files have been released to this day. They're still withholding the evidence. Pam Bondi.
subpoena and by Congress to turn over 6 million documents, photographs, and videos in the Epstein files, but you've turned over only 3 million. You say you're not turning over the other 3 million because they're somehow duplicative, but we know that there are actual memos of victim statements in there. And you also took down the Department of Justice's prosecution memo from 2019. So it's clearly not all duplicative, but even if it were, why not release it? Just release all the duplicative stuff. In the half you did produce, you redacted the names of abusers, enablers, accomplices, and co-conspirators, apparently to spare them embarrassment and disgrace, which is the exact opposite of what the law ordered you to do. Even worse, you shockingly failed to redact many of the victims' names, which is what you were ordered to do by Congress. Some of the victims had come forward publicly, but many had not. Many had kept their torment private, even from family and friends. But you published their names, their identities, their images on thousands of pages for the world to see. So you ignored the law, and even with over 100,000 employees at your disposal, you acted with some mixture of staggering incompetence, cold indifference, and jaded cruelty towards more than 1,000 victims raped, abused, and trafficked. This performance screams cover-up. Convicted sex traffickers
screams cover-up. Hello, yes, there's been a cover-up. We know this. So she redacted the names of some of the abusers and enablers. And yet, even though ordered by Congress not to redact these names, she did it anyway. Illegal. A massive cover-up. But she did not redact the names of the victims, the abused. She did it totally opposite than what she was ordered and what the law requires her to do. She was supposed to redact the victims' names and not the abusers. Instead, she redacted the abusers' names and published the victims' names, even though some of them asked not to be exposed. They hadn't even told their family about the Epstein abuse. Pam Bondi, nevertheless, published their names and images of them along with the Epstein files for the world to see. The victims. These people are sick. And if you allow this, you being the American people, continue to allow this. You've been allowing it because many of you are sick too. If you continue to allow this massive cover-up of these predatory abusers, then you all need to be checked out inside of a mental hospital or something. They're all sick. She's being exposed right now.
and groomer Ghislaine Maxwell opened the gates of hell to Virginia Giuffre and hundreds of other victims, as Virginia recorded in her remarkable book, Nobody's Girl. But when Maxwell was subpoenaed to come testify before Congress, you and Todd Blanche quickly moved her from a higher security prison to a minimum security camp in Texas, where she's enjoyed 5-star treatment, including catered meals, private gym time, and access to a therapy puppy. All because Todd Blanche, who's utterly failed to invest.
Look at it. This is sickening. So she moved Ghislaine Maxwell, as we know and as we heard of at the time, from a maximum security prison to a prison where she's receiving 5-star treatment. This is when Maxwell was being ordered to come and testify. And she moved her, got her out of the way. She hid her, basically. Did Pam Bondi. A massive cover-up is being exposed right before our eyes right now. He's exposing all of it. It's Representative Raskin. And look at the smug look on Pam Bondi's face from start to finish of this grilling. Look at the smug look on her face, this smug smirk that she has. As if to say, I don't care what you say. You can't do anything to me. No one's going to do anything. Yes, I'm covering it up. So what? I mean, she hasn't looked back and acknowledged the victims. The man is sitting here pleading with her to acknowledge the victims, to meet with them, acknowledge their humanity and abuse. She hasn't turned back and said, I'm sorry that this happened to you. They're sitting right behind her. Instead, she just keeps flipping through her paperwork with this smug smirk on her face, totally indifferent to the victim's suffering. These are sick individuals. You're looking at it right before your own eyes.
Investigate the monstrous crimes of Epstein, and Maxwell's co-conspirators spent 9 hours with Maxwell and satisfied himself that she would have nothing untoward to say about Donald Trump, which is your only real interest in the matter, based on institutional performance. But abandoning victims and coddling perpetrators is what you do best. When the FBI opened a criminal investigation into the brutal killing in Minneapolis of Renee Good, a poet and 37-year-old mother of 3, by Trump's masked paramilitary ICE agents, you shut it down. You claim you're investigating the cold-blooded murder of Alex Preddy, an ICU nurse at the VA. But how can we trust the administration when the president and Kristi Noem call Preddy a domestic terrorist and Stephen Miller called him a would-be assassin? Not only do you refuse to share evidence with the state and local investigators and prosecutors in Minnesota, you have blocked their access to the crime scene and the evidence. How are you seeking justice for Marimar Martinez, the Montessori school teacher in Chicago who was shot 5 times by...
Yeah, and Keith Porter Jr., who was shot on December 31st of 2025 by ICE agents and unalived, and no one really ever speaks about him, about his unfortunate demise, about his deletion, about his homicide, about his murder. And when they do, and if they do speak about him, he's always last, he's always an afterthought. Because what they want to put in the forefront of this movement is Renee Good and Alex Preddy, because they're more relatable to the powers that be, the American people, who typically, historically, do not care about the Keith Porter Jr.'s of the world when they are brutally unalived by the police. They only begin to care when it happened to Renee Good and Alex Preddy. Shout out to Keith Porter Jr. Rest in peace to that brother.
A Border Patrol agent who bragged about it on text. Or the family of Keith Porter, a father of 2 shot and killed by an off-duty ICE agent in LA. Or the family of Silverio Villegas Gonzalez, shot and killed in Illinois minutes after he dropped his kids off at school. There's no sign of any movement at the Department of Justice. You even launched a criminal investigation into Renee Good's grieving widow. How sick is that? But it's even worse. You've turned the People's Department of Justice into Trump's instrument of revenge. Trump orders up prosecutions like pizza, and you deliver every time. He tells you to go after James Comey, Letitia James, Lisa Cook, and Jerome Powell, the head of the Federal Reserve Board, and members of Congress like Adam Schiff, Mark Kelly, Alyssa Slotkin, Chrissy Houlihan, Jason Crow, Chris Deluzio, and Maggie Goodlander, to name a few, and you snap to it. You replace real prosecutors with counterfeit stooges who robotically do the president's bidding. Nothing in American history comes close to this complete corruption of the justice function and contamination of federal law enforcement. And the good news is many serious lawyers at DOJ, including some of your own original appointees, have refused your lawless orders. Danielle Sassoon, your original pick for acting U.S. Attorney in Manhattan, resigned rather than follow your corrupt...
Eating her up. And look at her. She can't face him. She can't look. What are you looking at, Pam Bondi? Face the music. Look at him. Look at the rest of Congress. Look at the victims. There's nothing that interesting on her desk. There's nothing that interesting in that paperwork. Yet she keeps her focus on that. And when she does look up, it's just some sly, wry smile and smirk. And then she looks right back down as she is getting chewed out, exposed about a cover-up with receipts that this individual has been covering up, has not investigated any ICE murder, has fired DOJ employees and replaced them with individuals who will not stand up to Trump. The worst attorney general in the history of the United States is sitting right here before us, involved in a cover-up that involves over 1,000 victims. And nothing has been done about it. Nothing. Not even one victim has received justice or even spoken with this lady. And the American people are okay with this. This is sickening.
Order to quash an indictment against Mayor Eric Adams as a political favor from Donald Trump. A Federalist Society member who clerked for Justice Scalia, U.S. Attorney Sassoon refused to participate in this blatantly corrupt scheme. Her top assistant, Hagen Scotton, an Iraqi war vet and 2-time Bronze Star recipient who clerked for Chief Justice Roberts, and then Judge Kavanaugh, promptly resigned too, writing to your office, quote, "I expect you will eventually find someone who is enough of a fool or enough of a coward to file your motion, but it was never going to be me." You and the president nominated Eric Siebert, a 15-year career prosecutor, to be your U.S. Attorney for the Eastern District of Virginia. But after 5 months of investigating Letitia James and James Comey, he found no evidence to justify criminal charges. So you forced him out. You replaced him with Lindsay Halligan, Trump's personal lawyer from the Mar-a-Lago documents case, who had zero prosecutorial experience and no qualifications. And then you were humiliated when a federal judge found that this corrupt appointment was blatantly unlawful and threw out Halligan's indictments entirely. And grand juries of American citizens have repeatedly rejected your vendettas and baseless indictments brought by the hacks left at DOJ now, with 2 different grand juries in Virginia voting down indictments against Letitia James in a single week. And just yesterday, another grand jury shut down your vendetta factory by rejecting indictments against the 6 members of Congress who had spoken out to remind all service members that they have a duty to refuse illegal orders. You tried to get a grand jury to indict 6 members of Congress who are veterans of our armed forces on charges of seditious conspiracy simply for exercising their First Amendment rights. I hope.
How sick is this? So she wants to get veterans, members of the Congress, indicted. Fortunately, the judge threw it out. He recognizes the scam that is American politics. She's hell-bent on prosecuting innocent people and persecuting them, but has not brought one single abuser to justice. Will not indict one single abuser, but she's trying to indict everyone else. Letitia James, James Comey, 6 Congress people, but has not indicted not one abuser. This is diabolical.
I hope you will heed the wisdom and the constitutional patriotism of those grand jurors and not try it again by doubling down on that humiliation. As your best lawyers are sacked for having participated in the January 6th case or just flee for the exits now, your new lawyers keep lying in court. In dozens of cases, they've been excoriated for lying to federal judges. Chief Judge Boasberg, right here in D.C., suggested your Department of Justice perpetrated a fraud on the court. Other judges found your statements to be, quote, inexplicably misleading, patently incredible, totally inconsistent, and so disingenuous that the court is left with little confidence that the government can be trusted to tell the truth about anything. Now, as ranking member, I asked the chairman to add a few extra rounds of questions today because we each have 5 hours of questions, not 5 minutes, but we're stuck with 5 minutes. That's clearly insufficient to give voice to America's victims and survivors and to demand answers about all the corruption and cover-ups that we see at DOJ right now. We've got just 1 round, so we ask you politely but firmly, Madam Attorney General, please do not waste 1 second of our precious time by evading questions, by changing the subject, or engaging in personal attacks against members of Congress. We saw your performance in the Senate, and we're not going to accept that. This isn't a game. In the Senate, you brought something with you called a burn book, a binder of smears to attack members personally for doing the people's work of oversight. Please set the burn book aside and answer our questions. And when you hear us reclaim our time, that means it's time for you to stop speaking. We only have 5 minutes, so when we reclaim our time, that means you stop. And if you don't, we will ask the chair to stop the clock and let you go on his time. The quality of justice in America depends on the character of our government. Please do your job and bring the Department of Justice back from the brink. The survivors seated behind you and the American people watching everywhere deserve a Department of Justice worthy of its name. I yield back, Mr. Chair.
Wow. Whoa. Yes. Eat her up. She's involved in a steep cover-up. This has been exposed. This is explicitly clear that the administration itself, Kristi Noem, J.D. Vance, Donald Trump, of course, Pam Bondi, is involved in a cover-up of these children who have been murdered and abused. There's no justification for it. Now, I need to get to myself what happened when she was being questioned. They had to preface it with that, did Representative Raskin, because Pam Bondi, as he alluded to, kept being evasive in the Senate hearing. She would not be forthright. She would not answer any questions. She came with personal attacks, and they only have a certain amount of time to state their case. She understands this, and so she was stalling the entire time. He's asking her not to do that here, that they will not go for that this is not a game. There you have it. Let me know what you think in the comments. America is involved in a massive cover-up. The American government is involved in real time, as we speak, in a cover-up of predators, people who abuse children, viciously have abused these children, and they continue to cover it up daily. Pam Bondi was just exposed. Excuse me. Pam Bondi was just exposed. We see everything that she has going on. She has released 3 million pages as opposed to 6 million. So again, half of the Epstein files, roughly, have been released. Only half. Who knows what is in the other half? Apparently something so severe that she continues to cover it up and not release them. She didn't even release the 302 summaries formed against Donald Trump by the FBI until called out on it. And then all of a sudden said, oh, my bad, it was a mistake. Here it is here. Well, this 13 or 15-year-old girl made these allegations against Trump. So she's doing all of Donald Trump's bidding, of course. This is why she was put into that position, and she's carrying it out, but at the expense and at the cost of the American people and the American people's reputation, because these individuals who were involved in the Epstein abuse in every other country are being brought to justice as we speak. Only here in America has no one other than Epstein, and they killed him, been brought to justice. Took him decades to do anything about Epstein and hasn't done anything about anyone else who are in the Epstein files. This is disgusting. This is wicked behavior by the American government and the American people if they subscribe to this and sanction this sort of behavior. This is sickening. Get your kids and lock them up. Keep them away from these people. They're sick. Pam Bondi, there you have it. Exposed, grilled, slammed, snapped on for her cover-up, for her inability to humanize the victims, even in this abuse cover-up. How sickening is this? She will not even acknowledge the abused, the victims of Epstein, Trump, Elon Musk, and others. She will not even acknowledge them. Yet she is the Attorney General. This is sickening. Stay safe and stay free.